had said, our focus is reporting today, in particular BI4 plus SharePoint. What you will learn is what this new product is all about that allows you to be able to do dashboard and KPI reporting. So let's get started. The first thing I want to discuss with you is what your reporting options are in regards to what you have today versus what is available or what are available to you. You will notice in the slide you have native to nav, self-serve, business intelligence, and push notifications. What are these four components of reporting that's available to you within this version and or the next version of the software? When I say this version, for existing customers, that would be version 2009. For newer customers or prospects, that would be 2013. Of course, existing customers can also upgrade to 2013. So native to nav, what does that mean? That means RDLC. That's just a buzzword or new name that Microsoft uses to say this is a report that you get out of the box inside the software. So that would be the report inside EquipSoft. Business chart is a new feature available to you in 2013. Where now in the new role tailor environment, you can view graphs and charts, not just tables of or columns and rows of data. You also have the role center for some of you who have seen 2013. That just means the ability to be able to use Qs, C-U-E-S, for reporting so that you know how many open or stacks of open work orders you have versus how many rental contracts you need to ship to your customers. The next type of option for you is the generic charts. Send to Excel function, once again, that is within the nav environment today. Send to Excel is available to you in the current version 2009. Generic charts available to you in 2013. Power BI, what is it? It's really Power Business Intelligence. The great thing about this product is it encompasses Power Pivot, Power View, Power Query, and Power Map. These are the add-ons that you can get on top of Excel that you can utilize yourself free of charge. You really don't have to pay for these things. But Power BI is available only in 2013 for Excel. Of course, you also have Jet Report. Jet Report will remain as a product offering within the EquipSoft environment. Jet Report is essentially a report that you would use when you want more detailed type of information as opposed to the next step of reporting, which is what we're going to discuss. Well, actually, I forgot it went to the left to the right, but let's go to push notification. Notifications, SharePoint alerts, and SSRS. Notifications are available in 2013. SharePoint alerts are available regardless of the version. SSRS or SQL Server Reporting Services is available to you as well in the current or new version. Essentially what push notification does allows for you to be able to receive emails, notifications, or alerts similar to what, if you're an existing customer today, what you are experiencing today when you enter a support request in your SharePoint site and that you get push notification with regards to what happens if someone's touched it or has a resolution. So it's that same concept. So basically all these three components that you're looking at so far are available to you within the reporting environment. Now, what we're going to focus on is the last quadrant here, which is BI4 Dynamics, which encompasses Power BI, which what you see under self-serve above, SharePoint technology, focusing on portals and KPIs. So what is BI4, and what is the offering that's available to you? Okay. So BI4 Dynamics is the brand new tool that we have been talking about for years now, and it's finally come to fruition, and that's what you're going to see today as a high-level overview of the offering we have that allows you to be able to create dashboard and KPI level reporting. I want everyone to understand that concept because oftentimes people say, well, I need report. I need dashboard, I need KPI. Really, they're two different things. The reason being is that dashboard and KPI reporting are really done at a high level. It shows you a snapshot of what's going on in your company, which means that when you're running it, it doesn't mean that you're going to get up to the minute within the second information, because it uses views or cubing technology. Whereas a report that you would run inside the software or even Jet Report, that's something that you refresh as you see fit when you're using it. So what you see in the BI4 Dynamics here are the different components that come out of the box. Some of them are still work in process, or we're improving them. So what you see there in the blue on the top, the first 3 rows, those are all the products or reporting that's currently inherent to the software today. Please keep in mind that the product itself, as far as reports go, are best practice solutions that we would have for EquipSoft and so on. Fixed assets is also one product that's also built in. But you will also notice in orange and in green are 5 different components that are available, that could be available to you as well, depending on whether you use it or not. Some of our customers are actually using manufacturing, so it's also part of the product. However, from a EquipSoft specific functionality is concerned, jobs or project management and resources, being service technician reporting, along with service and rental, are what's unique in this product that didn't exist before. So that's something that we are building or have built within the product core. Now, as far as the reporting flow is concerned, how do we distribute that and how do we report that or render that within the reporting process? So to keep it simple without going into too much technical detail, essentially information will come from EquipSoft. As you know, traditionally today when you want to create a report, you would use EquipSoft for that, which is really the base nav reporting or base EquipSoft reporting. And of course, you know about Jet reports and you know about Excel. But now, of course, we've added a component here for the BI4. Basically, what it does is it takes the information from the database and creates a view or a cube for it. I'll talk about that in a few minutes as far as what that means. From a rendering standpoint, how do we render that? How do we actually, now that the data is created, how do we actually render the report? In this case, once again, you could use EquipSoft for that. But in the case of the BI4, we would be using Excel for that. And of course, just like any report, you can render the report itself in PDF format. Now finally, this is really the key for this product and any product that we are delivering to our customers, whether it's Jet Report or BI4, in that from a distribution standpoint, how do we make sure that the people get their hands on this particular report? So in this case, it looks like I just got a notation saying someone cannot hear me. So I will, I'm just sorry about that. I'm just checking to see if there's any other notes for me. At any rate, if you cannot hear me, just in case, it's not the end of the earth because we are recording this demonstration. So if you are having problem hearing me, we can go ahead and give you a link to the recorded session. So going back to the distribution, sorry, Dave, if you don't mind just putting what I just said in the chat. That was more for you, Dave, so that whoever cannot hear me can see in the chat. So when I said that, I meant that for Dave, by the way. I should have said that, because if you can't hear me, you can't hear me. From a distribution standpoint, the key here is SharePoint. In other words, how do we distribute this report? The idea is we would do it through SharePoint because it's a central repository. You get a chance to be able to see all those reports. But bottom line is, if you're wondering, how do we protect it through security? The great thing about SharePoint is that the security in SharePoint is configurable. You can even allow your customer to see the information, provided, of course, you have security and so on. Now, one last thing before we actually get to see the software itself is, why do you want to use BI4? Sorry, I meant to say why use there, not why user. It has unlimited user licensing. So I put that as the first line because once you see that, you're probably saying to yourself, wow. Because ultimately, if you wanted to purchase something like Jet, for example, you know that every time you want to have access to, you have to have multiple use of licenses. In this case, it's unlimited. Of course, let's face it, from a security perspective, only a handful of people will be able to actually create the report if you so choose to do that. It's really based on Windows permission and SharePoint permission. Dashboard and KPI reporting. This is what everybody has been asking for. Show me a dashboard. Show me charts. Show me green lights. Show me red lights. Show me something that blinks. Show me something that isn't a traditional report. The third point, these are predefined SQL views. What do they mean? It means that the tables are flattened. It means that you have auto links and joins. So if you are accustomed to creating reports today in SQL, using Crystal Report, using Jet Report, using Access, I think you get my idea in that, or what I mean, and that the idea is that you know you have to use the service header table. You know you have to use the service line table, the customer table. Then you have to do a get or a join. It makes reporting so much more challenging. So what we've done is flatten this table out for you in that in one table, all these different values and variables that you require are within that one flat table. We've determined what the auto links and joins are for you based on the customer number and the sell to number of the bill to, based on the serial number on the equipment or service item table versus the serial number in the service history table and so on. The next important point here is the use of Excel pivot tables. The report itself are generated using Excel. And just like Jet reporting, if you know Jet to Excel today, you're more than halfway through understanding the report. And it uses the inherent functionality called pivot table within Excel. And if you have downloaded Power Pivot, it's an add-on to Excel. It's a Microsoft product as well. Just think of Power Pivot as pivot table with more advanced functionality. I mentioned configurable security to you. So that means that you can limit who has access to which report and the data that they can see. Snapshot reporting, what does this mean? Well, we talked about BIs, we talked about dashboards and KPIs, but one of the things that's always been difficult to do, regardless of the tool that you would use, whether it's SQL Services, Crystal Report, or whether it's Jet Report, or whether it's native Nav Report, okay, or EquipSoft Report, is snapshot reporting. I'll give you an example. You look at your open work orders today. You look at your open sales orders or rental contracts. You want to know the age of all those open work orders or the work in process. I can tell you this right now, it's always difficult to do that. With snapshot reporting, what it does is it takes a picture of your open work orders and says, work order number 123 created today is still open today. A week later, it's still open. It takes a snapshot 7 days later saying it's still open. Therefore, you can easily now say that the age of that work order as of 7 days later is now 7 days old. It makes it so much easier for you. Ease of distribution, as I mentioned to you, because it is Excel reporting, it is SharePoint capable, you can distribute it much more seamlessly across the organization. From a technical standpoint, if we have some technical people on the line, we have modifiable SQL scripts. What does that mean? BI4 essentially is a software, a tool that grabs and cubes or turns into views information from the database. However, once that information is extracted within SQL itself, you can take that on your own, provided you know SQL scripting or SQL, and modify the scripts on your own. So what does that mean? It means that now you're actually capable of extending the views, the predefined views, the scripts that we've developed on your own, and you can even modify the reports on your own as well, in your own environment. However, please keep in mind that because we will be providing you newer reports in the future, that those reports will not be the same version. So it's no different than EquipSoft today. If you want to modify a report in EquipSoft, just please bear in mind that that would particular report would need to be upgraded. Finally, Excel Power BI tools. Although we're just using pivot table right now, you can use these Power BI tools that are also free to you in the software today with Microsoft Excel. In fact, even without BI4, you can use these tools, okay, the Power BI tools within Excel today, although you would have to create your own views and you would have to flatten your own table, which obviously would make it so much easier for you. So let's go ahead and actually see what the reports look like as examples of what we have today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch to the application here, and I'm actually logging onto our Office. So I'm logging on, and I'm running a report right now. It's open. It's predefined. This is the dashboard or the BI4 reporting. I opened it specifically in Excel, so you know it's an Excel-based report. This particular BI4 report is the receivable groups of reports. Please bear in mind that these are just samples of what we have right now. This is constantly an ongoing process for us. So let's take a look at some examples. I'm not going to go through every one of these reports. I just want to show you visually what we have to offer and how you would interact with them. So for instance, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here. Just hold on a moment, please, making sure I'm looking at my notes. If we look at the first work tab, you see some receivable over years, before due and overdue receivable reporting. We go to tab number 2, you see receivables over months. Do analysis over the years. These buttons right here, these plus signs, are grouping. I can click that to see the grouping of under 30-day receivables, over, etc. If I go in here, once again, you see some charts. So what I want to do is I want to take you to the one that I want to actually demonstrate to you, which is the customer tables report. As you can see, this customer tables report shows you a list of all your customers. For some of you who have seen my demonstration in the past, you're probably looking at these names and are familiar with them because they came from my demo database, by the way. You're not seeing actual customer information here, so I want to make sure you understand that. That's why some of these data might be fairly old, so I'm looking back in 2010, 11, and 12. Now, to interact with this report, you can do this directly by opening the report up in Excel. I'll show you what it looks like in SharePoint in a moment. But when you're looking at this, you're seeing a report that, conveys sales and so on and so on. But how do we interact with it? To interact with it, because it is an Excel-based report using pivot tables, you will notice I have slicers. If you're not familiar with that, just think of slicers as a way of being able to filter the data within the report itself. These slicers could be date-driven. They could be customer number-driven. They can be customer posting group-driven. They can be general business posting group-driven, product posting group-driven. They could be dimension-driven, such as branch and department codes. So watch what happens when I interact with the slicer and I click on 2010. What it will do is it will automatically update that data to produce the data for me specific to that year alone, or 2011, or 2012. On the other hand, if you're looking at this data and you're saying, well, I really want to see 2 years' worth, you can just hit the Control key, and again, that's basic Excel functionality. It will simultaneously select 2011 and 2012. From here, you're probably wondering, well, can I actually add additional slicers to this? You can, and I'll show you that in a different report. So for now, these are the predefined slicers. Now, if you scroll to the right here, of course, you will see additional reports. In this case, this one's got slicers for posting groups, customers, new customers, warranty, internal, external, years, and so on. As far as the grouping and the sorting, those are obviously predefined. Now, if you're wondering, I kept mentioning earlier that this is driven by a pivot table. Let me show you how this report was generated. So behind the scenes, and again, this is something that users don't necessarily have to see. If I go to the analyze ribbon on a tab on my ribbon, I click on field list. This is how you can see how BI4 was able to develop these reports. As you notice, these are all the different dimensions. And when I say dimension, don't think of it as the traditional way of describing dimensions in EquipSoft being branch, department, manufacturer, product codes, but really from a reporting standpoint outside of ERP or EquipSoft, dimensions are a way for you to slice and dice your data. So as you can see, we're consolidating discounts and net changes. Typically in the past, this would have been a difficult process for you because to try to do the math on your own would be a lot more challenging. So as I scroll down here, you will notice I've got some predefined analysis and values that you can easily, if you wanted to, place a check mark in here, and that will automatically appear on the report. If I scroll down to the bottom here, you can see additional filters that you can apply. I know for a fact that in EquipSoft, in our world, especially if you're an existing customer, we use the term general business posting a lot because that determines what the transaction type is, whether it's a PM service contract, whether it's a rental contract, short-term or long-term, or new or used equipment sale. So from a receivable standpoint, of course, that's available to you. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to show you another reporting, and this time specific to sales, so you can get an idea of other type of reporting that are built into the product. So when you buy it, of course, it comes with a product and it's yours. Here's an example of a report right here. As you can see, here's a sales report, my top customers and my top items. Okay. If I go to tab number 6 here, you have a listing of your top 30 items. Please keeping in mind that I've got a mixture of forklifts here and other types of products. Let's go back to tab number 5, and let me show you how you can easily modify this report on your own. So watch what happens here, okay? When I go ahead and click on the Insert button tab here and click the slicer. Once again, what I'm showing you here is inherent to Excel, inherent to pivot tables. This is not a new feature. The data that is collected in the background was collected by BI4. Your reporting tool is Excel pivot table. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a slicer. Okay. Sorry. Click that. Okay. I'm going to insert a slicer. It's going to say, okay, what slicer do you want to insert? And because in EquipSoft, especially for existing customers, we know how important it is to be able to filter on the general business poster group. So I'm just going to scroll down here, and where did the oh, there it is. It's up there. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click OK. As soon as it does that, I now have a slicer to show me all the different general business poster groups. I'm not going to bother placing this perfectly on my report. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just resize this so it doesn't take up too much room. However, watch what I can do if I was to say, okay, based on the top customers and items, okay, what I want to do, actually, hold on. Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, hold on. Let me just do one more thing. Sorry. Actually, there it is. Hold on a second. Just double check. I forgot to write this down. Analyze. So that's pivot table number 2, pivot table number 1. Okay. What I want to do here is I want to adjust the slicer so the slicer only affects the 2 pivot tables, number 1 and 2 on my report. What does that mean to you? It means that if you add a slicer, that slicer, if you apply it to multiple pivot tables, when you hit refresh or pick a filter, it will affect all those reports within this workbook. So we'll keep it simple. Let's affect only 2 pivot tables. And watch what happens now if I click New. You can see the data change. Watch what happens if I click part sales. You can see that I rarely have any, at least for the years I've selected. If I click 2008, oops, there's no data there clearly. So let's go ahead and look in rental. Oops, hold on. All the years here. Go back to that. Okay, there it is. Anyhow, like I said, sorry about that. As I mentioned earlier, this is my demo data, so there's not a lot of data there because I'm not actually using an actual customer's database because I didn't want to show you the numbers. But basically, I think you understand what I was trying to do here in that you can interact with this report by inserting your own slicers. Although the slicers might not have been there, what I'm trying to emphasize here to you is your ability to be able to customize this report as you see fit. And as you can see, based on the filter criteria, here is another slicer for the dates up here. That will automatically affect the report. You've seen receivables, you've seen sales. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one type of reporting, the last type of reporting, which is inventory driven. Okay? So I'm going to just pop this report up for you. Okay, here's the type of reporting right here. Top 30 items by various measures. You have your top 30 items, opening stock value, value increases, etc., etc. Once again, if you would try to attempt to do that on your own, it'd be very difficult. That's the reason why BI4 has made that easier for you to collect that data. And once again, without having to click on any one of these slicers, you can add additional slicers that have been predefined with the view and filter them as you see fit. It doesn't necessarily change the report itself, just the filtering criteria that's available within the view itself. So there are a lot of reporting here. I don't want to go through all of them with you. I just want to give you a flavor. The final thing that I want to show you is what it looks like in SharePoint. So right here, I will tell you that this is something that we're updating this week. Okay, it just wasn't available enough for us for the demonstration today. But here's that one report, sales report that I was showing you. Essentially, you will have a list of the different reports or different folders of reports that will be available to you to distribute to your users. Basically, when you click that, it will launch the Excel report inside a web browser. That's essentially all there is to know about SharePoint reporting for BI4. Although it sounded that much more exciting, it's actually that simple and that plain. Because all it is us providing you a link. And again, you can develop this on your own. And the logos, everything that you see here, you can modify on your own SharePoint environment. Once you launch that report, you're able to launch that report within the browser itself. Why is that important for you to be aware of? As you've probably been hearing and lately on the radio and the news and with Microsoft and every other environment out there, you have cloud-based computing being the new buzzword out there. One of the great things about this, given that it's opening up in a web browser mode, is that in the future, should you go into Office 365 or cloud computing, you don't necessarily have to worry about maintaining Excel within your environment. You can get that in, Excel application through the web using Office 365. And when your users are interacting with the report itself, they can interact with it directly off of the web without having to open up Excel. However, if you are an advanced user, and this is by design, by the way, that we show you the menu bar here, you can click on Open in Excel, and that will open up the report directly in Excel. So basically, that is it for the presentation. As I promised, it would take no more than 30 minutes to present to you. So let me just go back to my slide here. And if you have any questions, either it can go into our chat or You can, your telephone will be unmuted, and you can ask your question verbally. Although I just wanted to make a point here as well that if you are an existing customer on this call and you want to know about pricing, if you can just direct your questions to me directly.
Okay, thanks very much, Oliver. We do have a couple questions for you, so we'll try to get through these quickly so we're not holding everybody up too long. One of the questions we received was, do we get completely new reports, or do we receive updates to our existing reports?
The answer is once you purchase the software, much like EquipSoft today, if we add a functionality, you will receive it. Same thing is true with the report. But the major advantage to it, similar to EquipSoft today, is that, as I mentioned, you can modify the scripts. You can modify this report if you like. Obviously, if we upgrade it and edit it and add additional features to it, then those reports you'll have to modify on your own, or you can ask us to help you modify it back. But again, the great thing about it is it's Excel, right? You just save the Excel report that you created on your own as a different name, and you get our report and you get your report. Essentially, the major thing that will probably change is the underlying data behind it. Much like a table in EquipSoft today, we're not going to get rid of a field. We're probably just going to add more information to it, so there will not be any dramatic change. So in short, you will get these new reports regularly from us, depending on the schedule for delivery.
Okay, next question is, regarding security, can I use the same report, for example, the sales revenue report, but have it filtered by department in the distribution? In other words, if I'm from service, I should not be able to see the rental department data.
Right, and that can be controlled and configured, yes.
Okay. Are we able to limit the editing or change functions if these reports are distributed to outsiders?
Yes, because it's Excel, you can protect it, so you won't be able to save it. But keeping in mind it is Excel, and then if the data is refreshed, that data will not follow the actual file itself. So think of Excel as really just a renderer of the data in the background. It's going to keep refreshing in the SQL database that it creates. So really, if you send it, it's really just a snapshot. It's no different than you sending an Excel spreadsheet today with data that you manually input on your spreadsheet. It will not. That data will remain static. It will never update.
The person who asked the question, Oliver, said through SharePoint specifically, through the portal is what this person meant.
Oh, yeah, through the portal, yeah. That's the great thing about SharePoint. Sorry. It's that, yeah, you can control all that in SharePoint. SharePoint has an incredible amount of security that you can configure to allow access to change. So, no, yeah, they won't be able to change it. As you saw earlier when I showed you the web version of the report, that's the web version. Unless you give them access to launch it in Excel, that's it. That they can only interact with it.
Good. And the next question sort of rolls right into the same thought process. It was, can we display these reports on an external-facing SharePoint site? Yes.
See, with SharePoint, one thing that I have to remind everybody is that you actually own the rights to SharePoint today with the SQL license. But it's only for use internally, which means that in order to access it, either you're in the domain and the network inside the building, or you're logging on using remote desktop or Citrix onto your own environment, or your VPN in, because you're actually connecting directly. Now, if you wanted to be able to connect from anywhere around the world and just open up your browser and you have a user login and password, that would be, a different story. That would be a different license. So, yeah, that is correct.
And the last question I have for you, Oliver, is there any limitations as far as the version of Excel? I mean, does it work with, what version of Excel does this work with, or is there a limitation?
It will work with 2010, but the Power BI that I kept mentioning, which is an incredible tool because we didn't bother showing it today, but the Power BI tool allows you to do mapping. What I mean by that is, imagine if you have an image of the United States or North America, and you want to see your sales in a particular geography or region. It's wonderful. It's like an interactive global function, you know. You'd only get that in 2013, but it works in 2010. Also, if you want, you can also consider Office 365, because that allows you to have a constantly up-to-date Excel licensing model, as opposed to worrying about upgrading your Excel, you know, because it's too far back. So that's an option for you. Also, just in case there's another question, I just want to quickly bring this up. No one has asked for this information yet, and I know I can see all the attendees, and I know I've got existing customers on the line here. One of the things I also want to mention to you is that we're currently working on the service reports. So that's going to be released within the next couple of weeks. I want you to be aware of that. We're just cleaning up the views right now and putting together the specifications for the reports. So I want you to be aware of that, and that's the reason why you didn't see that. But overall, as far as the rest of the software is concerned, it's already there, okay?
All right, Oliver, we've gotten to all the questions, so that's going to conclude our presentation today, everyone. As Oliver mentioned before, this webinar will be recorded, or it was recorded, and will shortly be available on our website, EquipSoft.com. So on behalf of Oliver and the entire EquipSoft team, we sincerely thank you for taking the time to join us today. And if you have any other questions about EquipSoft, we'd be happy to assist you in any way we can. So with that, thanks again, everyone. We hope you join us again in our ongoing series of webcasts, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.